Well, I really hope you're enjoying these videos as much as I am. I think they're so fresh. It's really wonderful to zoom into authors' homes in this way. And thank you again to Nora Gomringer, Roland Buty, Karl Ruhmann, and Vanni Bianconi. And thank you, Vanni, for your little mix there. Very, very interesting. I love it when authors take up the challenge and create their own little videos as they've just done. So thank you very much to them. And if anybody is indeed interested in these authors, publishers or translators, these are all books we would love to have in English. Vanni's is partly in English, The Loveless House, but please get in touch with Pro Helvetia. They're the ones you need to get in touch with. Obviously, it's great if you've got a publisher interested as well. Eva Stensrud, who you met earlier in the day, is the person to contact. That's estensrud@prohelvetia.ch. Now we have another 4 authors for you to meet as well. And this is our final batch of 4. And when you finished watching these, I'll come back and talk to you a little bit more about the interviews and how you can pursue the translation and publishing as well if you're interested. So I'd like you now to meet Lynn Molyneux, Martin R. Dean, Julie Gannon, and finally the wonderful Lucas Berfus. So enjoy our final 4 interviews.
Hi, I'm Lynn Molyneux. I am a Swiss artist, poet, and novelist. I work and live in Switzerland in Geneva. I have, in the past couple of years, published a few books, and the next one is coming out pretty soon. The first one I published was published in 2018 by the publishing house Torticolis Frères. The title is Watch the Sound of Mountains, Regarde le bruit des montagnes in French. It's a book that interrogates time, the way that it stretches in another dimension of time somehow, when it is confronted to the inevitable and approaching loss of a loved one. The book is addressed to its characters, so it's written in a you form, and it explores this very powerless state where nothing can really be done except for perhaps influencing on the way we look at things. And at the same time, yet during this period of complete powerlessness, some of the most important things happens nonetheless. So it's an exploration of a state rather than a complete, perhaps adventurous story. Then I was published earlier this year in the anthology of young Swiss-French poets by the Greek publishing house Vaxicon Publications. It's a bilingual edition in French and Greek. It's a European project, so they published 1 book for each country, each time in the mother tongue of the authors and in Greek. And I am about to publish a new book, which will be called Reflector, Catadioptre in French. And it questions this first step when life is stumbling on survival, which is, what is it that makes us take it or not? And how do we interact with this strength or desire to move on that doesn't really exist in language, cannot really be said, and at the same time that is very difficult to share. So the book is an exploration of that energy, and it also revolves around a long ongoing, for about a year, dialogue with an old woman and her reflection on life as someone getting to the end of it, compared to the main character that is pretty young. I also work a lot in the field of a form of writing that aims to be spoken. I work in dialogues with musicians and composer. So that's, and we perform those writings. So that's a very interesting work as well. Very, yeah, very gratifying to work in because of the richness of the collaborations. I do not illustrate my own work, as I said, but I do work on visual poetry quite a lot. And I try to adapt to, obviously, the circumstances in this very special year. And as the pandemic struck and the lockdown started in Switzerland, I decided, seeing all the amazing artwork that was published online and feeling very grateful for all this great energy going on, I also felt like I have a building facing mine and I don't know anything about its inhabitants and the people living there. So I decided to post a poem each day on my window. So I wrote them on immense sheets of paper that I had to find and my leftovers because all the shop were closed. And it's been an incredible journey. I posted a poem each day during the entire lockdown. And in the end, I started having answers from the inhabitants of the building in front of mine. It was really cute. And it's been, yeah, I do believe in that art roots us as human beings.
Hello, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Martin Dien. I'm living in Switzerland, just at the border to Germany and to France, in the town of Basel. I write in German language. I started very early with a novel called The Hidden Gardens. In my career, I almost published about 10 or 12 books, novels, short stories, essays. I would like to put your attention to a book of essay. It's called Reflections in Mirrors. I choose this book because it's a currently relevant book to the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's finally a book about the otherness, that it's a topic in Switzerland as in Great Britain as well, I think. As a son of a Swiss mother and Indian father, Indian Trinidadian father, I have first-hand experience of the arguments surrounding foreigners and the hostility towards everything other. Throughout my literary career, in my books and essays, I have debated this question of the other. The search for my own roots led me to Trinidad and to London, and finally to northern India, from where my ancestors originally set out for the Caribbean in 1867 as contract workers. Cities like Paris and London are key to me. Paris, with so many different ethnicities come together, and London, where the whole continents meet in a kind of people's laboratory. In my essay, Reflections in Mirror, I consider the question of the self and the other, and in so doing, bring to bear the sum of my own experiences thus far on this complex topic. Identity, I suggest, is nothing more than an echo chamber in which the self and the other both reflect and merge into each other. The second book plays in London. It's called My Fathers, because I had two fathers. My mother left Switzerland very early in 1954, and she met a Trinidad Indian guy in London, and she fell in love, and the product was me. She went back to Trinidad and came with another Indian Trinidad man back to Switzerland. The story, it's in a certain way, the story of my two fathers. I invented new, I told new with Robert, and Robert has two fathers, one to many and at the same time one to few. He grew up with his mother and stepfather in Switzerland, but his real father comes from Trinidad. Robert has never met him, and when he suddenly discovers his trail, Robert's life goes to pieces. He leaves his family in Switzerland and moves to London. When he finally meets his father, however, he is not the elegantly dressed gentleman Robert had hoped for, but a neglected old man in a wheelchair in Battersea, who has even lost his voice. The critics wrote about his novel. It's a novel full of humor, excitement, and sometimes brutal frankness. It's my story in a fictional form, the story of having a Swiss mother and two fathers living in London. And my father, my real father, he lost 2 months before I met him. He lost his language, the ability to speak, in a stroke. Thank you for the attention to my 2 books, My Fathers on the one hand, and the essays, Reflections in Mirrors. Thank you very much.
My name is Julie Guinan, and I'm a Swiss writer from the French-speaking part of Switzerland. I was born and grew up in a town called La Chaux-de-Fonds, which is a city I really loved, and a city which inspired me a lot. One of my first books, called Hors la Loi, Outlaw, is taking place in this quite normal city, and it's a modern Western where a young lady falls madly in love with a young guy, and she realizes that maybe he's not the guy he told her he was. And yeah, so that's a modern Western taking place in this town I really like. And more recently, I wrote another book called Survivante, Survivor. This one takes place in a really, really small place called Maison Monsieur. It's a place with only 3 houses and a beautiful, wonderful landscape in a forest with a river, and a big house where the heroine is living. She's living alone. And one night she's reading and the light goes off. And first she doesn't really know what's happening, but she can sense that something is not normal. And she decided to write down what's happening in her life. So she starts a journal, and Survivor is her journal when we can follow what's happening in her life. So first the light goes off, and then the internet, and then the cars stop going on the road, and the birds stop singing, and so everything is really bizarre, and she's feeling more and more depressed. And so we can feel her day-to-day life in this end of the world, or which could be the end of her world. And for me, this is quite a personal book, because when I started writing it, I went through a really hard breakup, and I had to write down what was happening to me. I had to write about my feelings and try to make sense of what was really so sad and also distressing. So I also started writing a journal, which inspired this journal. And this was a way for me to also feel the power of literature and writing, because this was quite the best therapy, to write about this, about what was happening to me. And it really helped me. And now I'm so happy and grateful to see that also these books can also help people. I had many very touching feedbacks about this book, that people related to what happened to the narrator, and that it somehow echoed with their own life. So yeah, this is maybe the best thing that could happen, and also the best way to realize that words really mean something and that they can help people. And so it would be so amazing if this book could be translated in English, of course, because well, I would be so curious to see how it could sound, and also how the language could sound, because I chose very modern words and also quite a way of writing which fits the journal. So yeah, that would be an amazing experience to see how it would sound in English.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lucas Berfuss. Lucas Berfuss. That's how we pronounce Lucas Berfuss in the Bernese Oberland, where I grew up in a little town called Thun. But now I'm living in Zurich, in Switzerland, entirely living in Zurich, Switzerland, because I can't move, because we are locked in at this moment, of course, because of the coronavirus. So that's why I'm suffering a little bit of this cottage fever. But that's not the worst of it. The worst is that I'm a playwright, you know, and I should be working for the theater, but there is no theater at all at the moment. And that's really sad. And I realized that we are not really working in the entertainment business, but in a more existential, I don't know, it's theater, it's the most important thing, I realized, because it reflects the human need to get together and to have gatherings and to be a social being and not to be alone. Yeah. So that's why I have to stay at my desk and to do what I'm doing as well, to write another novel. And this novel is going to be about my family. You know, it's still a secret because it's an unlaid egg with no title yet, but I can promise you that it's going to be quite disturbing, funny, maybe a little bit mysterious as well, because my family and the story of my life is quite funny, sad, mysterious as well. And now it's a good moment because some people died recently, and sometimes you have to wait till some people are dead that you can write about them. And now that's the moment, because I am not dead yet. So I have to hurry up a little bit. So this footage here can't be too long because I have to go back at my desk. And you have to know that under my desk, there is an unopened box with my latest book. It's a collection of essays called Die Krone der Schöpfung, the crown of the creation. And it contains a collection of essays I wrote the last couple of years. That's what I am doing too. I'm an essayist too. And I'm stick to these screens at the moment, like I think a lot of you too, because I'm teaching as well. I'm working with students, students at the Hochschule der Künste in Bern. And I miss them too. I need to get out, I guess, and to meet some people. And I hope I can meet you too some sunny day. Until then, stay well and stay safe and stay clean. Bye-bye. Hey, and don't go away yet, because this is a message to Tess Lewis, who translated already my novel 100 Days in such a great manner that I need to have her for the translation of my Unlegged Egg. So please, Tess, please, I will send you the first copy of it, okay? But I need you really badly.
And you finally heard Lucas Berfuss there reaching out directly to his translator, Tess Lewis, to please, Tess, he says, to translate his next novel. I love the way that these Swiss authors are so aware of their translators and so grateful to them. They've all mentioned their the importance of translation. And of course, that's what we all recognize here as well. So if translators and publishers are interested in any of the books we've been talking about, we had 16 authors presenting their books for translation and publication, and I can vouch for every single one of them. And there are many more Swiss authors as well. This is just a small selection of some wonderful writing that's out there for you to publish. We'd love you to dip into that. And of course, the next couple of hours, in fact, it will be behind digital closed doors where Swiss and UK publishers are meeting for matchmaking sessions to discuss rights and all kinds of things, children's books, commercial fiction and non-fiction. And that is, of course, an opportunity open to all publishers if they're interested, all translators as well. But please get in touch with Pro Helvetia. Now, all the contacts will be online as well, and all the authors you've just heard from as well, all their short videos will be available on our website, the European Literature Network website, all the 5-minute videos, every single one, including the details of all the books and the publishers, the original Swiss publishers. And in addition, today we launched 2 riveting interviews. They're the long form audio and video interviews with me and 2 Swiss authors, Dana Gregorcia and Max Lober, and they're being launched today as well on our YouTube channel. So we'll be taking a short break between 1 and 3 GMT, and I'll see you back at 3 o'clock, 1500 GMT, for an amazing panel with 4 translators who've all been working with Swiss publishers and with Pro Helvetia, and we'll be able to talk about translation and how translators and publishers work together. So for the moment, thank you from me, Rosie Goldsmith, and see you back in a couple of hours.